Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hi, I'm Alicia. I own a crochet boutique called Awestruck Crochet. Okay guys, we're going to be embroidering the larger Della duck. I have everything here. I have my black worsted weight yarn. This is size 4 yarn. This particular yarn is from Hobby Lobby. It's the I Love This yarn in black. I have 2 strands, one for each eye, and then I have white that I'll be using. This is I Love This yarn, but it's cotton. You can use acrylic or cotton yarn. It's just your preference. If you use cotton yarn, find one that is soft and not stiff. And so I have the Della duck here. The yarn attachment is with the increases, so you can see that I increased here. This is going to help with the placing of the bill so that I know where to go and so that the increases are on each side of the duck's bill. I'm going to zoom in a little closer so you can see and watch me embroider. Okay, so here we are with Della. I have the beak done. I have my long strand of acrylic yarn. I'm going to insert, you can insert anywhere on the face. I just like to come in through the side. So I'm going to come in here, and the large Della duck uses 2 row stitches for the eyes. And I like my eyes to start at the end of her beak so that it's actually, well, her eye placement will be about right here. So then that there is about 5 stitches along the beak for her eyes. So I'm going to just insert here on the side and come up through this stitch. And this actually ends up being one of the first increases here. So here's my increases. I'm going to come up through this stitch right here, and I'm going to leave a tail so that I can tie off. I'm going to go up 2 stitches. So that's 1 row and that's 2. So Della's eye, I like to guide the eye and figure out where it's going to be straight. And so it looks like we're going to be placing it. If I place it in this stitch right here, it's going to be a little sideways, so I'll probably place it right here. It's too hard to pick, actually. Either one will be fine. I'm going to place it through this one. So then I'm going to just come back out through the hole that I went in. I can take this out. I don't need it anymore. I'm going to pull the acrylic yarn down. There we go. Okay, now I'm just going to keep going in and out between these 2 stitches. So I'm going to take my needle again and go through that stitch that we came up, and then come back out the same stitch. You're going to keep doing that with multiple passes. You're not going to go through any other stitches to create your eye. So I usually like to go on one side and then the next time go on the other so that it builds up the eye. So that is what we're going to do. And I like to go slow for this part as I get closer to the eye so that I can guide the yarn exactly where I want it to be so that it stays in place, and then pull tight. So now I'm going to switch my yarn a little bit more over here and then go up and under again through the same 2 stitches and then guide it here. You can pull out any extra polyfill that comes out with the eye. That's going to be normal, so you'll kind of have to pick it out. I think that's as big as the eye is that we're going to go. And we'll maybe go 1 more. You can kind of see whether it's too much or not. So if you have it here and if you add this here, I think that looks a little bit more fuller, so I'm going to add 1 more stitch over here and go slow so I can guide it with my fingers how I want it. Pull out the excess. Okay, I'm pretty pleased with this eye. I'm going to leave this yarn hanging here because I'll need it for the eyelash. So now I'm going to grab my other yarn string and we're going to go do the same thing. On this eye, we came up through the first increase. So we're going to do it here. That puts the stitch right there. So I'm just going to come in on the side. Any stitch is fine. Come down here, and then we're going to come up right in here for that first increase. I'm going to pull to leave a tail to tie off, and I don't need this anymore, so I can pull it out. We're going to go up 2 stitches just like we did for this one, so it puts it right here. And I'm going to put it in this hole. If I put it this one, I'll get a diagonal eye. I want it to be up and down, so we're going to go through this one. Back down through the same stitch that we came up in. So it'll be like this. Okay, now I'm just going to keep doing the same thing on the other side, going back and forth. Okay, now I'm just double checking to see if they're going to be similar. I think if I add another row, it might look too big compared to this one. Maybe not. Maybe we'll go one more. Again, it's all just kind of your preference and style of how big you want the eye, how wide you want the eye. There's no particular right or wrong reason. You just need to keep going through the same stitch. I have a little white spot here, but it'll be okay. I can move the yarn around, and I'll also have a white highlight here, so it will really be okay. All right, I'm going to pause here just like I did with the other one, and I'm going to grab my white yarn now, and we're going to thread the white. Now the same thing with the white, we're going to come up through the same 2 stitches. So I like to start where I already put my tail, and that way I can tie them together. So I'm going to insert in the same stitch as I did my black, and I'm going to come up in the same hole as the bottom of my black. We're going to leave a tail so we can tie off. I'm going to come up and insert my yarn through the top, and then you can come out any other stitch. I like to stay kind of close by because I'll go back down to create the highlight, but we're going to go slow, and you can pull either side tight, but there's the first little white on the side. Now I usually like to turn my head to the side so I can do the highlights. Wherever your yarn is coming out from, you're going to go back in that hole, go back through the same stitch, and you're going to come up in the middle of your duck eye. So you might have to push around a little bit because you've already created like a fence to get through with the black yarn, but you're going to come up through the black eye, and then you're going to go back down to the top of the eye like you always do, and then come out another stitch. Go slow so you can walk it exactly where you want it. And there's her little white highlight. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm using the same white yarn If it's easier for you, you can have 2 different strands of white, but again, I'm going to go through the same stitch, because if I go through another stitch, then I have a white line, and I don't want that. So down the same stitch, out through the bottom of her eye, pulling it. You have to be careful how tight you pull. If you pull too tight, you're going to start pulling on this white highlight. So you have to kind of be a little bit careful, or it'll be too tight and you won't see it. But if that happens, you can just take your needle and go under the white and pull it up just a little bit to give you some slack. There we go. Okay. Moving on to this eye, we're going to move this yarn out of the way. I'm already down here at the bottom, so I'm going to just come right here at the top and go out any other stitch. I like to do it diagonally from my eye though, so that it's easy to maneuver with the needle. It's just kind of a personal preference. But here's the white, and then we're going to go back down through the same stitch and in the middle of my eye. Pulling it through, and then I'm going to go back down here in the top of my eye. And I'm going to end it at this tail so that I can tie those 2 together. So there we go. And then pulling it. Here we go. There is the white highlights of our eyes. And then we're going to go back with the black, and we're going to do the little eyelash part. So I usually go about 1 stitch over, so I'll go probably about here. And this is all kind of trial and error. So you're going to go back down the bottom of the stitch and come out where you would want the bottom of your lash to be. And then I start from the bottom and come to the top, because when you pull, then it gets tighter and gets a little smaller and it's easier. So started from the bottom, we're about 1 stitch over, or about 1.5 stitches over. And we're going to come up through that top hole where we've been coming in through with our black eye. So we're going to go up. I usually go up and then I come back down. But again, that's just personal preference. And it looks long, but when you tighten it, he's still long. So I don't like this. This is a good example of the eye and what it might look like if you don't like it. I don't like this, so I'm going to pull it out. It ended up being too long. So we're just going to go up a stitch, because I didn't like how long it is. Still oops. Okay. Let's get this guy back down to where he was supposed to be. Oh, how did he come up here? He must have just pulled on. Okay, there we go. It's not all perfect science, guys. Okay, let's try this again. Let's go back up through the top, and we'll see if we like this. Oh, that looks a little bit better. Okay. She looks kind of angry though. Okay, let's do the other side and see what we're feeling like. Sometimes if one side just isn't it, you just need to take a break and go to the other side, guys. Okay, we're gonna come out here to the side, about 1.5 stitches over. I don't know why it didn't work out. Usually that's exactly where I put the placement of the eye. It just looks a little long. Okay, pulling this out. Let's thread it again and try it. Let's come up a stitch and down. Okay. I think that's just how this little Della is going to work this time. I think she'll be okay. She doesn't look as angry as I thought she did, especially zoomed out. Okay, so here's her little eye. We're going to take each tail and go back down here to the starting so we can tie off. So I'm going back down that stitch, coming out through the bottom. And I'm going to pull on this just a little tighter. And then I'm going to tie these. I'm going to tie the 3 of them together. Be a little bit mindful about how hard you pull to tie because you're tightening something. And then you can cut it off. And you're going to tuck it in through the stitch. Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing for this side. We're going to come down, go through the same hole. We're going to come down here. Sometimes you have to do a little bit of a pushing, but she reforms and shapes. And then we'll tie these. Cut it off and tuck it in. Okay, and there is our embroidered eye Della. She looks cute. Okay, she doesn't look as angry as I thought she was going to look. Okay, her eyes are done. Let me zoom out so I can show you how to tie her headband. Okay, here is what she looks like. Zoomed on out. She looks cute. Let's tie her headband. So I've gotten a lot of questions about the headband that I've been using. I've been using Baby Bonnie's headband because it has the more prominent circle, like bow shape, and I really like that. So we're using Baby Bonnie's headband. You may have to adjust how many times across you go, and that all just depends on tension. So you can measure by, as you're crocheting around, making sure that you will have some slack to tie, okay? But it honestly depends on tension. So I did 41, but this is with Premier Basic worsted weight yarn. And the number will change based on how thin your yarn is or how thick it is. So I usually like to tie these where they're gonna be about even when I crisscross. And the baby headband will come all the way down the bottom of her neck. So we're just going to cross tie it. Okay. And then pull fairly snug so that her headband isn't going to go anywhere. And then again, we're going to crisscross like this. And we're pushing this petal in and we're moving this one over. Like that. There. See, I like Bonnie's headband because it's just such a cute little bow. And then you can pull up and adjust. I like the headband to sit on the outside of her eyelash here and sit on the top of her head. Here's the headband view from the back. So there she all is. Oops, there's a black hair. And you can adjust it if you want the bow to be more center. There is your sweet little Della duck. She is all done. And this little cutie is ready to go to her forever home. Okay, so I hope that was helpful for you with embroidering the eyes on the big Della duck and how I tie my headbands and the headband style that I'm using. And then I will show you baby Della when I have baby Della ready. Again, you're going to need yarn needle, some scissors, and your acrylic or soft cotton yarn. I like to cut 2 pieces of black, 1 for each eye. And then I just use 1 piece for white. If you want 2 pieces of white, if that's easier for you, then you can do that as well. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and thread my black acrylic yarn. Okay, let's go ahead and start with the eye embroidery. I threaded my yarn, and then I use this part to tell me where I need to go. So this was my 3 increases. You can start your yarn needle through any stitch over to the side to tie off, but I'm going to come up in between this first 2 increase. So here's the first one and here's the second one where I tied off. I'm going to come up here and leave a small tail in the back to tie. Now with the Della, we're just going to go up 1 stitch. The big Della goes up 2 stitches or 2 rounds. So we are just going to place our needle in this one. Right there. And then we're going to just be working in between these 2 stitches here until we're comfortable with how big the eye actually is. The eye will get big on its own. You just need to keep guiding it back and forth. So I like to go on one side and then again on the other. You will have to pull out your polyfill because it does get pulled through. Okay, I think I'm pretty pleased with the size of this eye. I'm going to pull out this gray string. I don't need it anymore. And then I'm going to insert through the same stitch and just come over 1. This is going to be used for the eyelashes later. Thread your second piece of black acrylic yarn. I'm going to switch her head over here so you can see. I'm going to go through any stitch that you want to. I usually go from the bottom or the side. And we're going to come up again. Here's the middle increase. So we're going to come up through the first and the middle, just like we did with the other eye. And you're going to leave a tail for tying off. This only goes up 1 stitch. So I'm going to go right here. You can again play around with the placement of what it'll look like if you go to either one. I'm going to go to this one. You can take this out now. And then we're just going to keep building up this eye on either side. Okay, I think I'm okay with the placement of this. So now I'm going to just go down the same stitch that we had started and go in between the first and the second increase right here for the lashes. Okay, threading my white acrylic yarn. I'm going to come over on this side. I want to insert my yarn or my needle where I had started with my black. and we're going to come up this black bottom where we started at the bottom of the eye. You're going to leave a tail. We're going to go back up here to the top of the eye like you have been doing, and then come out any stitch. I like to stay close and at an angle. And then you're going to go back down the stitch that you came up with, and you're going to come up through the middle of the eye. And then you're going to go back down the top of the eye, and I'm going to come out another stitch. Walk it slow, and there you go. There's your first eye with the white pupil. Now, coming out another stitch, you could also just have moved from the top of this down to the bottom. My needle's a little smaller, so I take a couple more extra steps. I'm going to go back down the stitch that I came up in and down the bottom of the eye, like that. And then we're going to go to the top of the eye and out another stitch. Kind of hold your white eye where you want it, and then go back in that stitch and in the middle, and then right back to the top of the eye. Now I'm going to come out down here so I can tie these later together where I started on this side. Okay. That is what it looks like so far. Let's go ahead and do the lashes. I'm going to grab this side. You can start on either side, but grab the yarn where you just went over a couple of stitches. You're going to go in between the second and the third increase now. So this one was the first, here's the second, here's the third. Where I'm going to start from the top or the bottom, and then I'm going to just go through the top of the eye and back down to where all my other yarn strings are. And there's her eyelash. Now let's do the other side. Again, you're coming up between the second and the last increase and right into the top of the eye and down to meet all of your tails. And there she is. Okay, now we just need to tie off our yarn. Remember, when you tie off, to tie kind of gently because you're tightening somewhere. You're going to cut and then tuck in. And then this side. Cut. And then tuck it. And then there she is with your eye embroidery. I'm going to zoom out so you can see fully what she looks like. Okay, here is your baby Della, and then she's just ready for her headband. Okay, I have my pink headband done now. I again use baby Bonnie's headband. You'll just have to change how long you need it to be to fit around her head. I crochet 38 rounds of this part to fit her head. But that could change if your tension is different. Okay, for baby Della, we are going to be making sure that the bottom of the headband is at the base of her head. And then I'm going to make sure that they're even We're going to pull tight. And then we're going to cross again. And then I'm going to tuck this one under and switch the bows to the other side. There we go. Just play around with the foot. And then I like to have her headband where it touches her eyelash. And there she is. Your cute little Della is all done and ready to go. Look how cute she is, guys. Anyway, I hope this tutorial was helpful for you guys to be able to do the eye embroidery. She is really so sweet, and I can't get enough of her.